I want to do a roundup podcast episode about some of the BLs I've been watching lately. I've definitely gone into BLs more with my podcast, and there's been two particular Korean BLs, Something's Not Right and Business as Usual, that has been infuriating me so much. And I just kind of want to do like a little ranty session and just talk about my feelings about these shows. Hi, I'm Monique. I am the host of Off by Purple Art podcast, where I talk to you about K-dramas and C-dramas and BTS and so much more. So the BLs that I've been watching lately, they have been almost so infuriating that they're making me want to tear my hair out because they all have really great concepts, and in my opinion, they all started off really strong, but unfortunately, there's just been some mishaps. I can tell you right now. So I've been watching Top Form, which I did talk about on my podcast. That is a Thai BL, and it is based off a manga. And I believe there was an anime for it as well. And with that show, I really love Smart and Boom. I love the actors' chemistry, and I really like the earlier episodes. To me, it's one of the more stronger BLs that have been airing, but I do have my quibbles with it. And unfortunately, there was some side characters that popped up, like Johnny, for example, which may be canon to the source material, but those characters and the type of mishaps that they have construed in the show have gotten on my last nerve. And it seems like Aiken's character has just been going through the ringer since the infamous Honey episode. So I'm kind of up in the air with this show, but I'm still carrying on with it. And as I said, I think it's one of the stronger BLs right now. But man, something's not right. Believe you me, there's definitely something not right with that show. And Business as Usual, the two Korean BLs that I've watched, God, they dwell so much into the miscommunication trope, so much. Business as Usual is set in the office place, and you're dealing with 30-something characters. So I have, I guess, a lot less patience for miscommunication tropes when you're dealing with characters at that big age. Like, at your big age. Like, miscommunication tropes in romances are bread and butter. This is not just something in BL world. This is not just something in Korean BL world. This is something that is a historical trope in majority of the romances that you'll consume, or at least the ones that I consume. That is like a mainstay. And it's really tricky for writers to get this right. And honestly, it can vastly get on your nerves and wear you out quicker than not. So, Business as Usual, I'm glad it was 6 eps. Apparently there might be a 7th episode that's coming out. That might be like a special episode. I'm not aware. I just watched up to 6 eps, and this unfortunately will get into spoilers. I have to say that as well. But the miscommunication trope was so annoying in this one. Like, I liked the first episode. I kind of liked that we had the main character Minjun, and you know, he has been wanting to move on from his life. You know, he's very introverted. He has like some problems with like social cues and things like that, and he has this really internalized world, and he overthinks, and he is deeply insecure, and unfortunately he almost seems to revel in self-sabotage, which is very similar to the archetype of Bawu in Du Bawu in Something's Not Right, but at least Bawu had the grace of being younger and it's like a college age, so I can almost excuse that, but I will get into Something's Not Right. But Minjun, I enjoyed him, and I enjoyed like the sparring in the first episode when his friend of like 8 years just suddenly comes back into his life, and I was like, okay, I will give this show a chance. But by the time they actually got to the core issue of why their friendship and their dating kind of dissolved, and why Minjun, or I should say Jin Hwan, was kind of left kind of just up in the air, like what the hell happened to our friendship. Like he was looking so forward to building upon this relationship, and then Minjun just kind of ghosted him. Years later they end up reuniting, and it's just like this filled with tension because of this lack of communication. But then they finally have this moment where they communicate, but because of the walls that Minjun has built up over the 8 years of separation, it was just so irksome. I could feel it when they reunited for the wedding and how excited Jin Hwan was, and it was very similar to how he was really excited and had all these plans in his head, only for Minjun to get psyched out by the reappearance and the reemergence of his father saying, hey, I want you back in the family business, you need to stop messing around, get it together, kind of a thing. And you can see sort of the wheels kind of turning in his head. And then they have another miscommunication trope, and it's just so infuriating to me because it's like they had this really beautiful, like, intimate scene, like the chemistry was flowing, and I was like, we should be like at our victory lap, we're coming to a close with the show, only for another miscommunication trope. And then, you know, potentially Jin Hwan is like, okay, you know what, I have said all my feelings, I've put all my cards on the table, you're not listening to me, you're not internalizing anything I'm saying, so I might as well just leave the company and I might as well just go work for my father. And I was like, seriously guys, can we just get it together? Oh, only for the final hour for Minjun to pull his head out of his ass and then for them to finally get together. And it's like, it was only 6 episodes and I just felt emotionally exhausted watching it, and I was just kind of shaking my head like, for Christ's sakes, really? And that kind of brings me to something's not right, because something was really not right with all these 3 leads. I feel like something's not right started off with even more potential. It was so cute in the beginning. I love the idea in the beginning of the miscommunication trope in this sense, because we're dealing with a much younger cast and we're dealing with like a friendship and first love as really young characters and just coming into one's sexuality and things of that nature. So in the beginning, I really saw a lot of promise with this show, and there was a lot of moments within it that I thought were really cute. Definitely the first 3 episodes I really enjoyed. I love the notebook. I love the idea of, you know, Bawu just cataloging all of his feelings and him falling in love with his best friend, and then coming to the realization, oh my God, what if I confess and I ruin everything, and everything that we've built together as far as this friendship goes down the toilet. And anytime like a journal or a diary goes missing and then somehow the crush ends up with it, it's like, I love that trope. Like a lot of the more younger first love type stories that I enjoy somehow involve something to deal with a letter, like, you know, to all the boys I loved before. Huge Laura Jean stan, right? And I even wrote a book about romance, and I kind of used that kind of trope of like a missing journal of like music and lyrics and things like that. So I really love that trope, like a lot. And I was so excited, and I just thought Jihoon and Dubawoo, they had a really cute chemistry. And at the beginning, you know, Dubawoo's facial expressions and how he was closing himself off and was really insular and was pushing his friend away and was like, yeah, I don't want to be friends anymore. To me, that made sense. I just didn't realize for like the next 8 episodes that main character would have that same look of resentment and disdain every time Jihoon came within like 5 feet of him. Like for the first 3 episodes, I was fully in it, and then by episode 4, I was getting really irked. Because I was like, okay, I know they're young. I know this can get really messy and really tangled because of all the feelings involved. But dear Lord, like, what is going on? And then there's the Hamin angle of it as well, about him accidentally being the one to stumble on the journal conveniently and needing to enter this webtoon contest and wanting inspiration for an unrequited love story and stumbling upon this journal that Buowu has put all his emotions into, and it's like an incomplete story because he truly cannot communicate his feelings that well to Jihoon, because Jihoon, as we find out as the show progresses, also had liked his best friend, but hid behind it because he was clearly scared and decided, you know what, I'm just going to be an annoying pest and I'm going to continue just to be, sticking on to my best friend like white on rice, and it's just going to be this thing. And it just became this really circular conversation, and it was like a repeat, rinse, wash, repeat cycle for the next episodes. Like, I know BLs, and especially Korean BLs, they're historically very short for reasons, but this was a show that could have really benefited from being 4 episodes instead of 8. It really could have. I was getting so irked, and all 3 of the main leads were getting on my last nerve. Like, they were frustrating me so much. Like, I felt like sometimes tearing my hair out. And in the end, I don't think I really rooted for anyone to be together. I was like, the last time, before the big climactic confession from Boo to Jun, when Jun came to him that one last time in episode 8, and Boo was like, no, I do not want us to be friends anymore. I want us to cut communication. I don't want you to contact me anymore. Let's just go our separate ways and never talk again. And I was like, you know what? Bet. Let's go. Let's just finish this up. Let's wrap this up. That's not how romance stories go. Like, romance stories in media, for it to be categorized as a romance, it has to be a happily ever after or a happily ever right now. But you know what? This show can be the exception. Everyone go their separate ways, and let's just cut the foolishness. Because I was like, he still is looking at him like he's vermin. And I was thinking to myself, like, what happened? I was so perplexed. I was so perplexed by this. And then Hyeon having his own sexual awakening in like the last 11th hour as well. And then him having his whole unrequited love era arc. And I was like, what's going on with these shows? So I really am sad about how I felt towards the end of watching Something's Not Right, because definitely something was not right with the Boo. There was really something not right. There's not something right with all 3 characters, because Jihoon was definitely not respecting his boundaries. I was hoping, you know what, I need you to stop chasing him. This man can only tell you in so many different ways that he does not want to be friends with you anymore. Let's just respect his boundaries. Yes, us as the viewers had a lot more insight. We knew what was happening. We knew that both guys really liked each other, but they were scared and they were getting in their head, and definitely Boo was doing a lot of self-sabotage, and he was talking himself in circles, and he just would not freaking communicate. So yes, there was a lot of love there, but I was so confused. I don't know if it was like some acting choices, something that the director decided to do. It was a shame, because like the final moments of the show were really adorable and cute, but I was so frustrated leading up to the finale. I was kind of like, ugh. Like really. So it was just overall just unfortunately unsatisfying as endings for these shows. So I was just really frustrated. It was really sad to me that the show that started off really cute and had really pretty cinematography, and I even liked some of the scoring in the background. I just thought there was such a nice, youthful, beautiful kind of energy, and I thought all the actors were adorable, and I thought the sparks were there, and it's just somehow like episode 4 and 5, definitely 6 and 7, I was like, oh boy. Did you guys end up watching any of these BLs? Did you have similar thoughts, or do you have like a different take than mine? Let me know your thoughts. If you're watching the YouTube format of this podcast, definitely let me know respectfully in the comments section below. If you're listening via Spotify or Apple Podcasts as well, and I believe with Spotify you can also watch the podcast, the video format of it, definitely interact with those platforms as well. Let me know your thoughts. I don't really like doing quote-unquote negative reviews. I will say business as usual and Something That's Right, I thought they both looked really stylistic and pretty. I thought both sets of characters and their chemistries within the show, definitely in the earlier episodes, are good. But both shows, I feel like it was just so much miscommunication, and you didn't really get to enjoy a victory lap in either show. And definitely with Some Things Not Right, where it ended up having 8 episodes, and so much of it was told in flashback, and a lot of that flashback was entrenched in the more negative aspects, and you didn't really get to see a lot of the initial first love, falling in love, and getting to see why Woo was so enraptured in Jihoon, and getting to see all the charm of the character and the beauty of their friendship, and you as an audience getting involved in that falling in love stage, and why it's so devastating that the friendship and the potential of the relationship blossoming kind of falls apart before coming back together. And with Business as Usual, I just think they could have used a little bit more of their happy era, and when they had like their moments of intimacy, it was like beautiful, so super packed with, electricity and chemistry, and then it was yanked away, and then you're kind of just left reeling like, what the hell's going on? But those are all my thoughts, and on to the next round of BLs and K-dramas.